Is there a magical roadmap that you can follow to stop, slow, and reverse the aging process? I'm gonna say yes. It's not really magic, it's actually science, and I'm gonna tell you all about it. So I'm Jen Bullock, and I'm the nurse practitioner at Illum in Ashland, and there are essentially 3 main causes of aging in our skin, right? Face area. And number 1 is things that are changing in our skin. So we have decreasing collagen, elastin, and hyaluronic acid. Collagen is like the building blocks of our skin. It's what gives it structure. Elastin is what gives us the snap of our skin, right? So which elasticity, right? And then HA, hyaluronic acid, is what gives us the hydration in our skin. As we age, those 3 things are changing, and as they show up as aging in the skin, we are seeing things like changes in texture, changes in tone. We see hyperpigmentation or sun damage. We see all the little microvascular changes, those little spider veins around the nose and on the cheeks. Some people it shows up super intense, right? And for other people, maybe we're just seeing changes in like the size of the pores, or maybe there's like fine lines and wrinkles that are coming in, right? So those are all things that are happening to the skin. Well, we're also seeing changes in the bony structure. So our orbital rim starts to get bigger because we have some bone reabsorption that's happening. And what that shows up as is hollowing of the eyes, right? So the eyes start to look like they're farther set in. We also start to see maybe some extra skin around the eye. So a heavier lid, things like that. A lot of times we'll see also just some deepening of the nasolabial folds because the area right behind the nose here starts to break down, and we start to see a little bit of bone reabsorption along the upper lip here. And then also our jawline starts to soften, right? So that's where we start to see more skin, right? This right here. It starts to soften out. Now mine is especially profound right now because I actually did a laser procedure over the Thanksgiving holiday. So this is swelling on me, but I mean, just like everybody, I'm aging. I am the aging woman. And so I did something to address my skin over the weekend, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But we're also seeing changes in our volume. So our fat pads, right? They start to break down and slide down the face. And that shows up as like hollowing underneath the eyes here. People will say I have bags or dark circles or whatever. That's actually not that you have bags. You have a separation of the fat pad that's really visible. And on some people, it's a lot more visible than others. We get flattening of the cheek, right? We get heaviness around the jowl here. Sometimes people get like hollowing here. Or if you're really, really slender, you'll be able to start to see the ligaments and things like that. So we've got changes in our skin, changes in our bone and ligaments and musculature, and then also changes in volume. Most people come to see me because they're noticing 1 or more of these changes, and they're seeking essentially a solution for that. A lot of times people show up to talk about Botox because it's the first thing a lot of people have heard about. And it's, fairly low barrier for entrance. So it's, semi-cost effective. It's not permanent, so, well, nothing really is, but it's not something that's gonna last forever or that's hard to take back if you didn't like it. And generally people love it, right? I've been doing Botox as a provider for about 5 years. I've seen thousands of patients, and in the 5 years, like I've seriously had 2 people that didn't love their Botox. So Botox has extreme level of satisfaction. So most people will show up wanting to talk about that. But ultimately, there is a roadmap that you can follow, and it's not gonna just address one thing like coming in for Botox, which is a wrinkle relaxer. It's gonna address the 3 primary causes of aging that are happening. So What is that? I'm gonna tell you because that's what I do. I love science. I love to know that there's a recipe or a prescription that we can follow. And so everything that I do, my Illume RX, is based off of science and what I've seen to work, and that what also has research and we know works, right? So number one, the foundation of the anti-aging roadmap. It is going to be our laser and our energy devices, right? So there is several different types of lasers out there. There's ones that are just designed to address like hyperpigmentation and some of the fine lines. Those are going to be things like your IPLs and your BBLs. Those are amazing. I mean, Stanford did a study where they followed a group of women over 10 years, and what they did is 3 IPL, BBLs the first year and then 1 a year for maintenance. And what we found is that the women at the end of that study who had done the treatments looked on average 10 to 20 years younger. So that is foundation number one, no matter what you're doing, right? So you have to have some sort of a light-based energy annually, okay? So, and then there are other things that are like resurfacing techniques. So there's nanofractional, there's Fraxel, there's Halo, there's CO2. All of them have benefits. Those are things that you're gonna wanna do either annually, depending on how deep the resurfacing is, right? Some of the nanofractional, like the Viva that we do, or a light CO2 treatment could be done annually and you'd get beautiful results. That's intended to treat like some of the pore irregularities and some of the fine lines and wrinkles that are coming in. That's for all over like rejuvenation and health of the skin. It addresses some of the graying or yellowing that starts to happen with our skin over time. And then really like the profound, which is that non-surgical skin tightening procedure. That's what I just had done with a light CO2. That's why I have kind of this swollen neck and a little bit of bruising that's still left over. My skin's still a little raw from doing the CO2 resurfacing. But that's something that we would do depending on how old you are, but like really every 2 to 5 years. That's kind of the foundation to address like collagen and elastin and HA, and then just overall health and wellness of the skin, okay? So our technology, depending on what it is, foundation number one, okay? Everybody should be doing some kind of energy related treatment every year. Number two is gonna be our injectables. Now that can cover a lot of things, right? So we've got fillers. Those are our traditional hyaluronic acid fillers. That's your Juvederm, your Restylane, your Versa. There's RHA. I mean, there's a bunch of different stuff that's out there. That's gonna be your volume replacer. There are other things. There's Sculptra that builds collagen. That's really appropriate for some people. And then there's like hyperdilute radiesse. There's a lot of different things that are out there. You can do what's called PRP, which is essentially for somebody who wants a more natural approach. It takes longer, but you do your own growth factors. It's a blood draw. You take it and then you inject it into areas, and it'll over time replace some of that lost volume. It just takes longer. So generally there's, fillers, which are immediate, and then there's things like PRP and Sculptra, which are kind of the long game. All of those things need annual maintenance. Now, if you've come in and you're like in your 50s or 60s and you've never done anything before, it's gonna take a lot more product to get you back to a beautiful, refreshed, rejuvenated face. And you may spend more money that year to get everything kind of pushed back to a place where you're gonna be happy. But from then on out, your annual maintenance is gonna be super reasonable, right? So just keep that in mind, because all of these things in the roadmap require planning and budgeting and timing, right? None of us have endless money running around to do these kinds of things. And so we wanna make sure that we're really thoughtful about when and how much we're doing, okay? So that's number two. Those are also going to be like your Botoxes and your Dysports and your Xeomin. Those are the wrinkle relaxers, right? So those are done every 3 to 4 months on average. So fillers annually, 3 to 4 months on the Botox or Dysport, okay? And then number 3 is going to be your clinical grade skincare. So what we did in our 20s is not what we can do now. It's a whole different world, right? Our skin is changing. We need clinical grade skincare. So we have so many wonderful options now. There are growth factors and there are things that are designed to protect us from like UV light. So not just like the external stuff, but from like the sun and everything, but UVB, which is from our LED lights and our screens and things like that. That's actually the #1 cause of aging in our younger population. We're seeing people come in their 20s and 30s with all kinds of sun damage or hyperpigmentation, not sun damage, UVB damage. And so it's super important that people understand that you need to be starting clinical grade skincare stuff right here, right now, wherever you're at, so that you can halt and stop the progression of any advanced aging that we're starting to see in our younger population. But also, when we're older, like myself, we're going to be using that to protect the investment that we're placing in our skin, and then also keep us from having advanced and progressive aging as we go along. Okay, so what is it that's gonna do? Well, here's the thing. Everybody should be on some sort of a treatment plan. Whether you're coming in to see me or you have a provider that you absolutely love, you need to have somebody that's looking out for the, whole big long-term picture, right? So every year you should know that you're gonna be getting some kind of energy-based treatment. You're also gonna be doing some injectables, and you're gonna need a really good clinical grade skincare line. That's the roadmap to halt, slow, and rejuvenate your skin, okay? So there's no reason why we can't age beautifully, gracefully, naturally, and at a pace that we're comfortable with. The technology is there. I think it's amazing to be able to use it. And if you have any questions about this roadmap, if you want information for your provider or your injector, you can DM me or comment in the field here, and we'll get you some information that you can share with your provider. Or if you want to come see one of my providers, I would love to get you in here, and we'll get you all taken care of and squared away. So, the one thing I was going to say, on average, just so you know, it's going to be about anywhere from $3,500 to $6,000 for those annual maintenance treatment plans. So just learn to budget that in there, and we can help you figure that out. Okay, so until next time, you guys, stay fabulous and beautiful. Talk to you later.